Kevin is in a state of darkness, unbelievable darkness. We are suffering from a chronic national sickness, Kevin. A state of poverty. And no light is shining towards our prosperity with all this wealth we have at our fingertips. And you talking about matrimony? How can it be? That's a great line. How can it be? A great line I heard yesterday from one of my heroes I listened to. A man named Patrice Lumumba from Kenya. Guys, you will hear him later in the program. Did I say namaste? Let me say namaste once again to all of you. How can it be our vice president taking the little oil money, the crumbs we getting from Exxon, to now pay auditors to check Lisa 1 and 2 7 billion costs, to see if it's correct or how much they rob us, when we have to pay it anyway as is, regardless of what the auditors discover, because Uncle and Auntie, the time limit ran out. How can that be? How can that be? He went and approved the third and fourth projects, another 20 billion US costs last year and the year before. And he didn't start auditing or checking those as yet. Right? He will wait again till time run out and then pay those billions again as is. How can that be? How can we sit quiet and accept this? How could we ever know how far Exxon finger went into our eyes or their foot went down our throats with those inflated bills that we have to pay as is? How can this be? Beautiful line, eh? How can this be? I sometimes pinch myself just to make sure I am not dreaming of these things I'm witnessing and saying here. How can this be? In a country that has a government, an opposition, a parliament, and an educated society. How can this be? I don't know. Those 4 projects, Bernard, total 40 billion American dollars that will come out of our oil before profit is shared. And the leaders of the country are impotent. We're verifying or checking this 40 billion is concerned. How can it be? How can it be, guys? Are you saying none of the 65 MPs that were elected to oversee good governance of this $1 trillion oil business don't have it in them to speak up? To say something? How can this be? Are we running a business, a country, or a charity in this land? A circus, a sham, or a con game? I don't know, Ray. I just don't know, guys. How can it be that our vice president is allowing Exxon and partners to pile up tens of US billions upon billions on our backs. Project after project. And the most important thing, check and verify them before the time run out. They're quiet. How can this be? How can this be? The whole country quiet. The president of Guyana quiet. The opposition silent. How can this be? I don't know. How can it be? A country that has so much oil, so much timber, gold, diamond, bauxite. Yes, how can it be? We have so much, and the children and teachers going to school with empty lunch kits, fainting out of hunger in classrooms. How can it be? Beautiful line I learned yesterday. How can a man picking mangoes from your tree hand you the expenses for you to check and you paying the bills because you allow the time to run out? Huh? How can that be? How can you allow time to expire and has to pay bills, Ray? How can that be? How can it be that your father, not giving himself enough room to verify each mango tree bill, but running ahead full speed approving more and more mango trees for the people? How can that be? How can one justify that? How can any sane person with a little understanding of a cake shop agree to something like that? How can a vice president who previously served 2 full terms of 5 years each as president of this land do that to us with ExxonMobil out there? How can this be? But before we hear from Mr. Lubumba, please listen to what former South African leader Jacob Zuma had to say about the foreigners in his country. He said, Western countries have been coming to Africa for centuries only to rob them of their resources. And he's begging them to admit what they have done to Africa. He said, some countries became rich off the African wealth they took. The man said they were never taught. They never thought of helping or developing Africa. They dominated Africa. They took the political power, economic power, and then left the Africans powerless and penniless. The man said they had to fight to free themselves. Guys, uncle and auntie, listen carefully. You will hear him say, the foreigners were never there to help Africa. They were there and still there to rob Africa. How can it be? Play that tape. And for those of you, put it online. For those of you who are listening this program on YouTube and Facebook, please click on the link.
There is a link posted on the comment section of all of our lives. You can click there to get the full information of what Glenn Lall is talking about.
Instruments to dominate and take advantage on Africa. You heard him say, if the country is in a bad state and needed help, they would lend them money and put terms and conditions. Yes. that instead of lifting up Africa, pushes Africa further down into the gutters. So it was not helping. Again, how can that be? I don't know. How can they come and rob you of your wealth, put it in the World Bank, uncle, then turn around and strangle you with loans around your necks that you would never be able to pay, while they say they're helping you? How can that be? How can that ever be? How can that be? So, how can we be so rich, man, with such an abundance of resources, yet so poor and penniless that we are running back to the same people who's robbing us, tricking us, cheating us to lend we money to pay salaries and old age pension, brother? How can this be? The World Bank lent Ghana billions and pushed them into the gas to energy plant, which the World Bank convinced Ghana will generate cheap electricity. Very cheap for the country. Ghana ended up losing 250 million US a year on that plant. And when Ghana complained to the same World Bank who deliberately tricked them into it, oh, they said sorry. But you still have to pay the debts. How can this be? Today in Guyana, ExxonMobil and the American Exim Bank is pushing Guyana down that same road Ghana went down with its Wales gas plant. How can this be? I ask. How can it be that Vice President Jagdeo and Winston Brassington, who are both in charge of this project, can't hold a press conference to show or to come clean to explain to this nation how this project, with still an unknown investment package, will cut electricity bills by half and pay back the investment? How can this be? Today, we are told by the AFC, today, at a press conference, that the Speaker of the House, Mr. Manzoor Nadir, turned down a request by the opposition to have all the documents for the gas to shore project at Wales. You hear that? Wow. Torn down, he doesn't want the public and the opposition to know what's going on. He said, he told the AFC, the opposition, done brief by Brassington at the oil conference last week. That same oil conference that citizens had to pay to attend. How can this be? How can a clean, transparent government embarking on the largest project ever in this country, turning down the requests by the opposition to see the terms and conditions, the agreements that being put in place to cut electricity by half? How can this be, brothers and sisters? How can they not see the world is fast-tracking into renewables, such as solar, that can give electricity, yes, as cheap as 3 cents per kilowatt? Today in the Kaieteur news, we carried a story in which India, the energy minister of India, said that they were able to bring down the cost from 25 cents to 3 cents per kilowatt with solar. Right? 3 cents. They bring it down from 25 cents to 3 cents. They got 1.4 billion people that using gigawatts of electricity. And don't worry about shortage and battery. Guyana we got couple people using a couple megawatts, not gigawatts. Oh boy. Jack, they're worrying about storage and battery. How can this be? Huh? Huge nations like that going solar with 3 cents and not worrying about battery and sunlight. We're in a tropical country and Jack, they're worrying about sunlight and battery. Why, Ray? Is it because they want to do something fishy with the Wales project? I don't know. I don't know. I am just asking. Joe Biden just announced how they going to put in more gigawatts of electric power using wind. Jack Davan Brasington are run after the most expensive and dangerous options the world has, natural gas, to cut electric bill. How can this be, brothers and sisters? How can it? How can this be that the man you listened to just now, the former president of South Africa, knew the right thing, preaching it to the whole Africa, and now the whole South Africa in total blackout with no electricity? How can that be? How can it be? Our leaders here are so silent, ducking, running, and hiding from the citizens of this country about where they're taking this country or what's in store for us in this land. How can this be, Ray? I don't know, Josh. Joshua Akin? I don't know. The opposition and the government still around, Manard? I don't know. How can this be? Now, please listen to the man from whom I got that wonderful line that made me think so many things. This is one of the few heroes I have, a man worthy of my admiration. His name is Patrice Lumumba. I can listen to him all day. You know, Bernard, I think this man should be the leader, the ruler of the entire African continent, and Guyana too, even though he's a Kenyan. Could you play him, let the entire, put it up?
Once more, the link is posted on all of our Facebook pages, including our YouTube comment section.
Put it up. A pity I couldn't get the whole, the whole speech. Bernard, you sure that man was talking about Africa or Guyana? Both. We had Guyana Airways, which crumbled in '99, after which the PPP government reopened it in 2000, and Jagdeo flapped it. He couldn't run it. How can it be? 30 years and we are still living in blackouts that burn up one of my friend in Windsor Forest 2 weeks ago. How can it be? And blackouts will kill many more in this country. How can it be? How can it be that we have so much gold, diamond, bauxite, timber, and now oil, unmatched in the world per capita, per person, and instead our US dollar go down, it keeps climbing. How can it be? Lumumba talked about everything he wants to buy is from the Chinese in Africa. Is the same thing already happening here, where the Chinese taking over from the tongue to every community across the country, running out, putting out our own Guyanese brothers and sisters out of business. How can it be? A song in like Lubamba? Like, what? How can it be, Uncle? When COVID came, the man said, we couldn't afford vaccines, but yet we have leaders who are living larger than ExxonMobil in this country. How can it be? I don't believe Lumumba was talking about Africa. I believe he was talking about Guyana, with what's going on here by the so-called leaders we have. How can it be that Guyana is so rich that the whole world is now running to come here, while our people running helter-skelter to anywhere they can go to stretch out or to scratch out or to eke out a daily living? How can it be? How can it be that Parliament is passing law to give the minister power to waive taxes rightfully due to a country and its people from the resources that belongs to all of us? How can it be? How can it be with a stroke of the pen, Winston Jordan can give away billions of US dollars just like that for all the oil in this country? How can this be? How can we have a leader, Bharat Jagdeo, who knows this is wrong, but refuse to comment or correct this wrong and all the other wrongs? Man, Bernard, how can this be? How can this be, Uncle, when he and the president say what the coalition did was the worst thing ever for this country, and both of them said they will revisit, review, and renegotiate the Exxon lopsided contract? Today, sitting in the chairs of power, they're singing the opposite to that. How can it be? How can it be right that instead of going after those who robbing, cheating, and stealing our resources, going after people like Lall and anyone who dare talk about renegotiation of the contract? How can this be? How can this be when a whole country and region is sitting in the middle of a fireball, a ticking time bomb, ready to explode at any moment, and the leaders refusing to ensure that they get full protection from the parent companies of the oil companies. How can this be? I am talking about full insurance protection. How can it be? Jagdev talking about approving the 5th and the 6th project. Yes. I'm not talking about ring fencing of these projects so that we can get our rightful half and half of every barrel of oil instead of a half of a quarter bottle or a quarter barrel. How can this be? Let me repeat for the umpteenth times. How can we have a business that worth trillions of US dollars in which we are supposed to get half and half profits and no one checking the bills to see what they're shoving down our throats? How can this be, Bernard? How? Oh God, Ray, help us. Tell me how. How can we be paying 55,000 American dollars each day for each one of those 50 plus supply boats out there, when our neighbors like Trinidad and Suriname is paying $8,000 and $10,000 per day for the same size of boats? How can this be? I don't know. The Commonwealth want we to control the hundreds of millions Exxon taking out every year on every project to clean up. Yes. And warn us that that can move from millions to billions. And your government, our leaders, turning a deaf ear to this warning from the Commonwealth. How can this be? How can it be that the World Bank, the people who got to lend you money to build schools, hospitals, and buy drugs, etc., also warning Jagdev and President Ali to please put a cap on the interest rate with the oil companies, for they can take you for a ride like a donkey. And nothing is being said, heard, or done by them. How can this be, brothers and sisters? Nothing they have ever put hands on or initiated for this country and its people has ever been a success. Look around and see the Skeldon plant, the Enmore packaging plant, the airport they're building, them schools, police and fire stations with post offices they're building. Look at the money they're spending and watch what they look like. How can this be? How can it be that we have schools without blackboards, chalk, desks and benches, hospitals and health centers without bandage and aspirin, that we have no faith in? How can this be? In the fastest growing economy on earth today, how can this be? How can it be? The Marriott were used to lose money before we find oil. Making money now. They want to snatch it out from we hands. How can that be? How can it be the 20% shares Guyana had owned in GT&T that used to give this country 2.5 million US a year? They sell it out to people we don't know and to this day. How can it be? How can it be the Sonata complex that worth over 25 million US gone for next to nothing? How can it be the new GPC that used to make money for Guyana gone for next to nothing too? How can all these things be? How can it be that the entire Stabroek block, worth billions of US dollars, land in the hands of ExxonMobil for free? How can this be? How can it be that the Kaieteur and Kanji oil blocks, almost as big as the Stabroek oil block, also worth billions of American dollars, land in the hands of people for free too? And when Donald Ramotar, the ex-president at the time, was asked, he said he acted on the advice and recommendations of the GGMC and Robert Passad, the minister at the time, responsible for the oil blocks. How can this be? How can this be when the same Robert Passad was asked who are the people that received the oil blocks? He said he never see or know them. He only met with the lawyers who signed on behalf of the owners. And when asked who were the lawyers signed for the owners, he said he can't remember the name. How can this be? Somebody help me. Please. And when the owners were contacted by my reporter, one of them said he driving in traffic and not hearing too well, too much noise. How can that be? The other one said it was so long ago he can't remember. How can that be, uncle? How can that be, auntie? How can it be that two Guyanese that were gifted with our oil blocks worth billions of American dollars, not hearing good and not remembering? How can this be? Please help me. When the coalition go in, they started an investigation. And guess what, brothers and sisters? Them drop it down halfway. How can all these things be? How can it be? The first press conference Bharat Jagdev had after coming back into office said he would investigate the Kaieteur and Kanji oil blocks giveaway. And to this date, we're still waiting for hear if the investigation ever start, much less the findings. How can this be? How can we borrow 190 million US dollars to build a Mabura road, a bush road for dogs and cats and animals? And look at the holes, the potholes or the craters You guys driving on in the capital city or the rest of the cities Guyana has. Drive the airport and see what that road has become. How can this be? How can it be that we taking loans for clear up the Demerara mouth, the river mouth, for the oil company them boats, giving them freeway for the wholesale rape and robbery of Guyana? When our children sorry about that. When our children is hungry, how can this be? How can you have all this gold, diamond, bauxite, manganese, uranium, and even lithium, oil, and so many other valuable resources in abundance? And half the population skipping meals when the day come. How can this be? How can this be? The major gold players of the world are in Guyana secretly, fetching out our gold by the tons, and we can't even see the contracts handed to them by these leaders. How can that be? How can it be that President Ali and Ashni Singh bringing in a ton of foreigners, giving them sweetheart deals, basically paying them to rape and rob all of us with tax concessions, tax holidays, tax giveaways, and so much more? How can this be? How can this be that our brothers and sisters, your brothers and sisters, the owners of these resources, can't get a piece of land to make a hustle from the minerals that we have? How can that be? How can that be that when they do bring up, our brothers and sisters bring up an ounce of gold or 10 ounces of gold, they have to pay all the rightful royalties and taxes, but the foreigners pays nothing? How can this be? How will we ever see prosperity when we have so much secrecy? How can we ever see our way when we have so much darkness? How can we ever see a bright future when we have so much skullduggery going on in this land? How can it be? How can you live in such a rich country and half the population still on their knees with their mouths and hands wide open, begging How can this be, brothers? Help me. Help me to understand this. Just a small clique of people laughing, smiling, singing and dancing, enjoying themselves with fine wines and fat steak, eating lobsters, while the masses are crying for a little piece of banga Mary and grieving for a sliced bread or a loaf. How can this be? Listen to Kaieteur News headline we carried today. Today, only today, an international watchdog body is telling Guyana to keep your head on. Keep your head on with them bills Exxon throwing at us. The people said oil companies often inflate, jack up the bills with hidden expenses for the big boys, foreign workers and their families to benefit. The people said they are known for giving you invoices of things they never buy or deliver, and they charge you for it. The people say, look at the exorbitant marketing fees they're putting on bills to hand you. How come we are being helped with this type of information, and Jagdeo and Ali, Norton and Ramjatan mouths close? How can this be? I don't know. I need help. The people went on to say, look out for expenses that doesn't belong to you, that they will dump on you to pay. Oh man, you help me here, man. I need help. Guyanese, you people need to see. You need to speak. You need to stand up. I am sitting here and I am not ashamed to tell you that tears is coming from my eyes as I speak. I feel like screaming at the top of my voice just for you people. Because I am beginning to think I just want to give up my birthright and go live somewhere else. How can you be the richest country on earth today, man, and you country look like a shanty town everywhere you go? How can this be? How can you have leaders of your country hiding away the contracts they sign between them and the foreigners on your wealth, and you quiet? How can this be? Help me. Help me to understand how you can be the richest country per person and still have people eating out of rubbish bins every day and all over. How can all this be happening and you people sit down quietly? How can this be? I lost the challenge against the government and ExxonMobil. The judge ruled that the finance minister, Winston Jordan at the time, had the power to waive the taxes and that he broke no law. That's it. The law is the law. I played my role as a citizen and took the government to court for waiving the taxes to ExxonMobil and its subcontractors. That by itself, guys, shows that any citizen can challenge the decision or decisions our government is making in managing the affairs of this nation. The judge, Nareshwar Harnanan, went above and beyond to say that although my lawyers filed the case wrongfully under private law rather than public law, he had the discretion to convert the matter and continue to hear the case because Glenn Lall was within his right as a citizen to move to the courts as it was a matter of public interest. The judge also threw out the arguments put forward by Exxon lawyers saying that Glenn Lall took too long to file this case and told them the case was too important not to be tried and heard. I am still thinking of an appeal. I must say this. Listening and watching that judge rendering his decision, I know in his heart he was with me and every Guyanese to get the rightful taxes due to us out of our resources. But the law, the coalition passed in Parliament gave Winston Jordan the power to do what he did, waive all the taxes on ExxonMobil and their affiliates, their partners, their subcontractors. That tied the judge's hand, which left him with no choice to rule as he did. I must thank him for his frankness in rendering that decision. Glenn Lall lost, and all Guyana lost. Let's wait and see if President Ali will use his majority in Parliament and change that law so that ExxonMobil and their cronies pay the rightful share of taxes due to Guyana from every single cent that they made out there from the fifth and every other project going forward. Yes. Let's wait and see what will happen. Can it be? The ball is in our president's hand. You don't need Aubrey Norton, you don't need Ramjatan, or you don't need Jagdeo to make this possible.
That's correct.
It's in the hands of President Ali. The Guyanese people are watching and waiting on you. Please don't disappoint them. As certain you want a second term, the people will judge you and stain their finger based on your actions. What time is it? You know, yesterday we celebrated 53 years as a republic. We had a program Wednesday, the day before. Any one of you notice I didn't say Happy Mashramani or Happy Republic Day? And you would never hear that from me. Yes, ever. Or even respond to the many people who send me Mashramani and Republic Day greetings. You know why, brothers and sisters? Why? What is there to be happy about?
Exactly.
What was there to celebrate?
Slavery.
Countries celebrate, citizens celebrate when they're happy, when they're comfortable. How can a nation celebrate when half of the children in this country goes to school with empty lunch kits? How can a people celebrate when the salaries and pension they're receiving can't even take care of them for a week? What? Are we donkeys? Are we dogs waiting for masters to come and throw bones at us? How can this be? Not me or my family. How can we celebrate when the taxes alone we give away is in the billions of US dollars yearly, and we collecting a few millions as we portion? Huh? To put food in the empty pots. How can this be? Huh? How can we celebrate when we are losing billions in paying interest rates alone? How can we celebrate when we are losing billions through the lack of a ring fencing provision on these projects? How can we celebrate losing billions on inflated bills or invoices? How can we progress? How can we develop not only our country but ourselves when we're losing that kind of money? Help me to understand. How can we have that kind of money slipping through our fingers while the leaders running to banks every day, borrowing money to buy medicine, patch road and build hospitals and so on? Borrow to give 5,000 increase to them old people, our elders. You still want to hear happy Mashramani from Lall's mouth? You got to hear that from them clowns y'all call politicians. Check the newspaper yesterday. The PNC, the PPP, and the AFC all have Mashramani messages inside them, wishing y'all the very best. When last you hear them put out a statement or a message about Guyana's wealth that is being melted away by the seconds? When last you hear them talk about correcting all those things I just spoke about? When last you hear them put out a statement about changing that oil contract or using the trump cards they have in their hands to ensure we get it right on every other project waiting to be approved? Huh? How can this be? Brothers and sisters, how can this be? I wish I could have used the words I want to use to describe what messages they should have put out. Instead of that Santa Claus Mashramani message, all of them copy and paste from one another and send out. The ERC, Ethnic Relation Commission, and other organizations also sent out best wishes. Yes. Best wishes. And I'm certain the churches, temples, and masjids all wish their devotees happy Mashramani. Any one of them to say anything about what's going on in this land? Do they preach that in the prayer homes or the different organizations I am just asking. I like to ask questions. All of them only stretching their hands and licking their lips for what they can get or what is there for them. Yesterday, I got a message on TikTok talking about 7 rules in life that we must live by. The first one, number 1, is let it go. Never ruin a good day by thinking about a bad yesterday. That's for him. And you can also buy that, uncle. But Glenn Lall have to remind you of what they did yesterday, even if it's ruining my day today, to ensure that the evil they did yesterday do not continue tomorrow. So I can't let it go. The second one, the man said, ignore them. Don't listen to other people. Live a life that empowers you. Uncle, living a life that empowers you is correct. I agree with that. But ignoring them is nowhere in my books. The evil they do must be exposed, not ignored. If you ignore them, then you're empowering them to do more evil to all of us.
Well said, well said.
Yes, to keep you where you are, hungry and poor. With all the evil that is being done to this country, you want to tell me I must ignore that and pretend it ain't happening? Not Glenn Lall, brother. You send a message to the wrong man. Find somebody else. The third thing he said, give it time. Time heals everything. I am not certain about that too, brother. Keep on putting off whatever has to be done today and see what becomes of your tomorrow. You will eat. You know what? I don't want to tell you what. That same thing. For 7 years, the whole country quiet on this oil deal. And what's going on? Where are we today? Time healing, right? Or time running out. Time and healing anything, brother. Time running out. How can it be? 4. He said, don't compare. The only person you should try to beat is the person you were yesterday. Uncle, I could probably live with that part and try to better myself every day that goes by. But don't compare. Especially where our wealth is concerned. As to what country is getting. As to what Guyana getting. You'd have put your own brother to send me that message. Or give me that advice. Don't compare. And see where. What do you say? How much Trinidad getting? Tell them.
12.5% royalty and 55% taxes.
Suriname.
62.25%.
Brazil.
Used to be 56, some of the new fields 76.
What Guyana getting?
12.5%.
Junkie 12.5%.
The fifth thing the friend said, stay calm. It's okay not to have everything figured out. Know that in time you will get there. Uncle, that is an old time saying. And I yesterday thinking, because with today's technology, before you wake up, your country empty, your house empty, your pocket, and your pot empty. You can't stay calm And don't say nothing, brother. Not Glenn Lall. Send a message to somebody else. The sixth thing he said, it's on you. Only you are in charge of your happiness. What do you say to that, Bernard? I am not certain about that. Because I know I am responsible not only for my own happiness, but happiness for my grandchildren. The same way the leaders of this land elected to ensure that all the people of this country are happy. Yes. We are in charge of our happiness, but to an extent. How can I be happy? Or how can the Guyanese people be happy when the wealth we are blessed with by God Almighty, the leaders allowing foreigners to make themselves, their countries, and their citizens happy, taking away our happiness for their comfort, joy, and satisfaction? How can that be? I don't know. And the last one he said, life is short. Enjoy it while you can. If I could have catch the man who said that yesterday, I'll pong him in the mouth. Life is short. Enjoy it while you can. He gotta be an old son of a gun. You know? Gotta be that. Because I can't see you telling the Guyanese people who ain't got nothing in their pots to enjoy it while you can.
Not even when it comes to chicken feed.
What's there to enjoy? That man got to be one of Jack, dear friend. Or if I like, he send a message to me himself via someone else. Because it's something he would say.
You pay people to send it to you.
And with that said, Bernard, namaste. My radio people showing me it's 9:15 and we have to go. God bless you guys. Have a great weekend.